Okay, allow me to explain. So, this is Office Platoon. For those uninitiated, it is a tactical monster catching game where the whole shtick is that it takes place in an office, and all of the collectible creatures are different office supplies. Here's a few examples. Bam, bam, right? I think you get the gist. Now, for the latest monster added to this game, well, a lucky cat isn't exactly an office supply. However, it's a common enough piece of decor. You might be able to find one at your local Hobby Lobby, provided you dig through the AI-generated slop first, right? Plus, number two, it's my game. And if I want to stretch the definition of office supply, I can do it. I'm the developer. No one's gonna stop me. It's my game, my rules. I can do whatever the frick I want. Introducing, wham! Ninja Loan. Now, some of you in the audience might be thinking, Mr. Nerdpill, you just mashed two words that have absolutely nothing to do with each other. Ninjas and loans. These two things are unrelated, some of you might say. That's not clever. Actually, it's extremely clever and my brain is gargantuan, okay? Now, to no one's surprise, but to everyone's disappointment, a ninja loan does not involve shurikens or katanas or sneaking around. Ninja loan is actually an acronym. It stands for no income, no jobs, no assets, which I guess would actually be a ninja loan. Whatever, okay? No income, no asset, no jobs. You might be thinking, why in the heck would anyone lend money to a person with no job, no income, no assets, and no bitches? That sounds incredibly stupid because you know for a fact that they cannot pay it back. They don't have the ability to. They don't got no money nor ways of earning money. So why would you lend money to someone who couldn't possibly pay it back? That's the dumbest thing ever. And you would be correct. But now we have to answer the question, why would anyone do such a thing in the first place? To answer that question, let's not answer it and totally pivot to a random 180. Ninja Loan's first in-game ability is Mortgage-Backed Shuriken. She throws a shuriken. It's a pretty basic attack. It deals damage. But this game is turn-based, and so all of your units, right, they spend action points to do stuff on their turn. Now, if Mortgage-Backed Shuriken hits an enemy, you have an 80% chance to get your action point refunded. Holy smokes, an 80% chance? Those odds are so high. Even if you want to use one of her other abilities on her turn, right, you'd be hard-pressed to not at least throw out one of these guys, because 80%, those odds are so good you couldn't possibly fail, right? 80% chance to get your action refunded. Wow. Of course it does low damage to compensate for the fact that statistically you'll be able to use this many times on your turn. If you want to get real numbersy, you can use it 2, 4, 6, probably 4 times, right? So it's kind of a built-in game of press your luck. Now, totally random pivot back to financing. So one day, Wall Street is looking for some big new things to invest in. Now, one thing that you could invest in is a mortgage. However, mortgages, they're a little spicy, they're a bit too hot for some investors, right? Because they're a little risky, people obviously want to pay back their mortgage, but if someone gets sick, or if they get injured, or they lose their job, or a family, well, you could get a great return on a mortgage. It's a risky investment. However, one mortgage is risky, but what about 100? 1,000? Enter the mortgage-backed security. Because what it basically is you get a bunch of mortgages and you just kind of bundle them all together and put them in like a gift box, right? And then you sell it to someone. And the appeal is, right, sure, maybe 1 or 2 people might default on their mortgages, but all of them, surely a majority will be able to pay it back, right? I mean, statistically, that's just the most likely thing to happen. And so all is well in the world, right? Mortgage-backed securities start selling like hotcakes. hotcakes, man. Everyone wants a mortgage-backed security. It's the early 2000 equivalent of Safe Moon, right? It's safe and its value is going to the moon, right? Nothing could possibly go wrong here. For a time, right, this is great, and everyone's making loads of money off of mortgage-backed securities. It is just a financial circle jerk. However, eventually, we reach a problem. The problem that we always reach, eventually, is that it's not infinite. Eventually, all the potential home buyers got their mortgage, and thus, there's no new people to lend to. And with no new people to lend to, we can't make more mortgage-backed securities. There's no more juice left to squeeze. A responsible person might see this and be like, well, that's fine. We've made lots of money using this mortgage-backed security thing, but with no more mortgages left to lend out, I think it's time to call it quits. We've made a profit, we've very good sales today, let's look for something new to do. However, if you know humanity, you know it's never enough, right? In the words of the great Bon Jovi, mortgage-backed security, they're hugely in demand, but how do we get more of them? And the answer, the solution is to get more people to get mortgages. This means lending to riskier and riskier clients. This is a very slippery slope type situation, right? Much like Skyrim modding, how, when you start, you're just like, I'll just add Ordinator for the perks and, maybe Precision to fix the hitboxes. 2 hours later, you're 86 pages deep into the Nexus. You have downloaded a 8K resolution sign for the Ragged Flagon. It's just slippery slope. And so for Wall Street, this means, maybe lending to someone who had previously you would have ignored because of their low credit score. And then, they start lending to people who, don't have as much money, who might not be able to pay, with the adjustable rates, right? And eventually, the slippery slope leads us to the ninja loan, where we just start giving out loans to people with no job, no income, and no assets. Now, if a mortgage-backed security is composed primarily of subprime loans or ninja loans, then the MBO will fail.
Quick addendum, so you may have just noticed me abbreviate mortgage-backed security as MBO when the actual letters would be MBS. Apparently in finance, MBO stands for management buyout. I don't know why I use these letters. Look, I guess my brain just gets fuzzy whenever the camera's rolling. Anyways, I don't feel like re-recording everything, so just know that whenever I say MBO, I mean mortgage-backed security.
And then there's no profit to be had, right? Why would someone invest in a MBO that is full of these nasty bad apples? There's a few reasons for that. Number one, reputation. By this point, mortgage-backed securities were well known, they were very popular, they were considered, the safest bet you could make, right? So there's no way they could fail. The basket might have one or two bad apples, and that's kind of what people assume, but nobody bothered to check the basket and realize that it was full of bad apples. Some people were clever enough to actually take a mortgage-backed security and open the box and take a look inside and examine each individual mortgage. This is a pretty tedious process, but it opens your eyes. Because once you do so, you realize that this isn't a basket with a few bad apples, this is a basket composed entirely of bad apples. So, what do you do about it? The answer, well, let's do another pivot back to gameplay. Ninja Loan's second ability, credit default swap. So this one, I'm quite proud of this one. This one's my favorite. Okay, so how it works is you use it. Ninja Loan throws out a log and gains 2 dodge tickets. In order to explain what's going on here, we gotta back up a few steps here. So instead of having just a random percentage-based chance to hit, instead, if characters in Office Platoon have a dodge ticket, they will automatically jump out of the way of incoming projectiles. Ninja Loan is our first special exception to this rule, because if there's a log on the field, instead of jumping out of the way, she will switch positions with the log in a puff of smoke. And mwah, oh my god, look at the result. Oh, I'm so satisfied with this, to have the substitution jutsu be in my game and to have it work and to have it be automatic. Oh, I don't know. I just find it very satisfying. Of course, the log can be destroyed by enemies with a single attack. Oh, and also with credit default swap. It works anytime Ninja Loan has a dodge ticket, which makes some great synergies, right? Because there's this other character, Superclip, who can give others dodge tickets. I mean, you can get more value out of credit default swap. Ooh, synergy, strategy. Now, most people, right, were fooled by the mortgage-backed security. Not many people bothered to check what was actually inside the gift box. However, some people did. It's a tedious process to analyze thousands of mortgages at a time. It's also the plot of my favorite movie, The Big Short. Some people managed to catch on, and once they realized this, they invented the credit default swap. It's basically like insurance for a mortgage-backed security. Scratch that, it's the opposite of insurance. A credit default swap is basically betting against a mortgage-backed security. For every month that the mortgage-backed security is good and healthy, I will give you free money. However, if it defaults, if it crashes, if the gift box freaking explodes, you have to pay me a bunch of money. To better illustrate, let's say you took out a credit default swap on your car, right? Every month that your car is fine and A-OK, I give you free money. But if you ever crash it, get into an accident, or can't pay back your car loan for the month, I get a big, giant, juicy payout. So in the eyes of an MBO believer, a credit default swap is the best thing ever. It's free money, right? Because I have this thing that's guaranteed to succeed, and now someone's gonna give me money if it succeeds? Like, oh, of course. So yeah, it's pretty simple. Some people caught on ahead, before the big crash and took advantage of it. I feel like American culture, right, tries to tell us that, people working in finance and doing the big bucks of the banks and the Wall Street and the business suits, we're told that they're like, they're smart and they're doing important work. But I feel like the more like I learn about the finance world, the more it just sounds like people scamming each other. I don't know. But anyways, yeah, that's the story of the 2008 financial crisis, right? We have this product, mortgage-backed securities, everyone believes in them. We gotta squeeze more juice by lending to riskier clients soon enough. Instead of it being a basket with a few bad apples, it's a basket of mostly bad apples. Almost nobody checks the basket to see how the apples are doing. And that, my friends, is what we call a rug pull, right? Lots of people start losing their homes. And that's how you get a financial crisis. Anyways, so with the story complete, back to the gameplay. Ninja Loan's third ability, Collateral with Chain. Unlike the first two abilities, this isn't 2008 housing crisis specific. Collateral is a very low-level finance vocabulary word. You probably already know it. In the small chance that you don't feel ashamed. Collateral is just a thing you give up as security for a loan, right? If you fail to pay back your loan, the lender will take whatever you put up as collateral, right? It's like adding stakes, right? For a normal loan, collateral might be like the house, for the mortgage. Maybe it's some furniture, maybe it's just a straight up cash, right? For a less traditional loan, the collateral might be your kneecaps if you go with a loan shark. So if you're not able to pay it back, you lose your kneecaps. Right, pretty simple. In game, this ability is sort of like a grappling hook. Ninja Loan throws out a Kusarigama, whatever it hits, be that an object or an enemy. A chain will form, pulling Ninja Loan towards the target. If it hits an enemy, it lowers their defense. I'll admit, the physics on it is just a little bit janky. It involves kind of like a flying a bit everywhere, but honestly, I like it. I'm okay with the little jank. This is a physics-based game at the end of the day. If it's not a little bit goofy, if there's not a little bit of flying around ridiculously, then it's boring. That's kind of where the fun comes from. So, I'm always happy to put more, kooky physics-based abilities into my physics-based game. And finally, Ninja Loan's last ability is Foreclosure. The Foreclosure is like the finishing move of the bank. Well, not really, because a bank doesn't want you to foreclose. Ideally, you pay back your loan with some interest. But basically, foreclosure is the process of when the lender comes to collect the collateral in the event of a failed payment. In game, foreclosure is a close-range sword slice. Now, what makes it unique among other melee attacks is that Ninja Lone isn't exactly a melee character, so the sword slice isn't the star of the show. Like I said, it's a finishing move. So the first thing that makes it unique is high damage variance. This thing has a very low damage floor, a very high damage ceiling. So just like the rest of Wall Street, it is very much gambling, right? You don't know what numbers you're gonna get when you click this button, right? You could deal a little damage, you could deal a lot of damage. Roll of the dice, baby. Second thing that makes Foreclosure unique and that makes it a finishing move is that if you defeat an enemy with this move, Ninja Lone gets her action refunded, right? So I guess that's kind of this character's gimmick, is gambling and cheating the action economy by getting it back. If that's not Wall Street, if that's not big finance, if that's not crypto, then I don't know what is. Anyways, that's all for this video. That is all there is to know about my latest addition to Office Platoon, this new playable character. Embarrassingly enough though, you see, I said that this game was a monster catcher. I have yet to actually add the part where you collect new creatures. So while this character is programmed and fully animated, I have not incorporated her into the game yet, which is a little embarrassing. But you know what? Hey, that's what we're gonna tackle next episode. Finally, being able to recruit units. Stay tuned and stay subscribed for when that episode inevitably drops.